The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
It's the question every Vancouver Canuck fan wants to know. Does Tom Willander think that the city stinks too much like weed?
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, or just the host of Locked On Canucks. Again, where is Kyle Bound? He's not here today, but I know that you are here with me, and I appreciate you for tuning in. Very quickly, if you like what we've been doing on Locked On Canucks, go subscribe and like on YouTube on the podcast side. Go follow us and leave a 5-star review. And if you're a first-time listener, well, welcome to the show, baby. And don't rate us yet because, hey, you don't even know what you're getting into yet. Does Tom Willander know what he's getting into with the Vancouver Canucks? And why hasn't a deal been signed yet? Let's unpack some of the reporting around that situation and talk a bit more about Tom Willander, the Canucks prize prospect, still not with the Vancouver Canucks. Later on in the show, we will touch on some news and notes from the Canucks game against the San Jose Sharks. Dear God, I don't want to sit through any more games like that from my time as a Canucks fan. But some good stories to get into from that game last night. But we'll also touch on the Canucks somehow, some way, ending up as the worst team in Canada. How did this happen? Finally, we'll end the show talking a bit about how a rookie sensation from last night reminded me a bit of another rookie sensation for past Canucks history. But that's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Canucks. But first and foremost, let's get into it. The Tom Willander Report. All right, let's get into the Tom Willander Report here on Locked On Canucks. And for those on YouTube, you might have seen grades report cards. Well, the Canucks so far getting an F on this signing because, hey, Tom Willander is not yet in Vancouver. And that should be a surprise to a certain extent because we've seen other top prospects in other teams now sign deals with their NHL squads. Zeev Buim from the Minnesota Wild being one of the main ones to do so. Heck, Quinn Hudson, Tom Willander's teammate from BU, signed an entry-level deal with the Edmonton Oilers as well. All reports from Tom Willander suggest that he's back on campus. He's taking classes. He's working towards that degree, baby, because, life in hockey ain't forever, and you got to have that education. But, with Tom Willander, I think just based on the fact that he went to the Frozen Four tournament with Boston University, and based on the fact that there's nothing left to play for in this Canucks season. I mean, there's one game left against the Vegas Golden Knights before this season concludes. And there's likely not as much motivation with Tom Willander, his family, and his advisors to get this deal done. And I know here in Vancouver, we all want to poo-poo on the big bad media. Oh, they're drumming up another storyline here. And first it was Rick Tocchet. Is he going to sign? And, oh, no, now Tom Willander's not signing. Look, there's no risk here with Tom Willander. And I think there's some curiosity as to why he hasn't signed yet. But I think the simple answer is, maybe he just doesn't care about playing in the AHL playoffs all that badly. Maybe he's more concerned with finishing up his schooling because, again, you look at a guy like Tom Willander and, his comparables are the likes of Charlie McAvoy and Mike Matheson, in my opinion, two guys who were drafted in similar spots, went on to be, good defensemen in the NCAA before joining the AHL now. With Charlie McAvoy, we talked about it before about a month ago, but when the Vancouver Canucks still had playoff aspirations, I think Tom Willander would have signed this deal in a heartbeat because I think there was a chance that Tom Willander could have played NHL games in the playoffs for your Vancouver Canucks, much like Charlie McAvoy did when he left Boston University back in 2016-17. And for those who don't remember, Charlie McAvoy went from the NCAA to playing right in the NHL playoffs, played 6 playoff games for the Bruins back in 2016-2017, picking up 3 assists in those games. He played a grand total of 4 games at the AHL level before becoming a full-time defenseman with the Boston Bruins. And again, Tom Willander, he's in that stratosphere. Of course, the offensive numbers don't jump off of you on the page to the same extent, but he's got that kind of potential where I believe this guy could play in the NHL right now. And I think his advisors are telling him that too. So unless Tom Willander really values going to Abbotsford, getting his feet wet, there's a good chance maybe he stays in school and wraps up the semester here. Now, as Canuck fans, I know what you're thinking too. It's, this guy's going to make millions of dollars in the NHL. Why doesn't he go get his feet wet in Abbotsford to see what he can do there? The interesting thing about Abbotsford is it is a crowded blue line there. So it's not necessarily like Tom Willander is going to come in and just get top pair minutes right off the bat. I mean, there are other defensemen on that team. Heck, we saw some of them play with the Vancouver Canucks last night as well, and Victor Mancini and Kirill Kudryavtsev, who will be defenders for the Abbotsford Canucks in the playoffs, not to mention the vets like the Christian Willander, the Guillaume Brisevas of the world. So Tom Willander doesn't necessarily step in and just get these big minutes right off the bat. Not to mention the AHL playoffs are what? The Abbotsford Canucks theoretically could be done in 3 games, right? That first series is a best of 5. So likely Tom Willander, based on what we're hearing in terms of the reports, doesn't necessarily see that as being a big part of his development. And in the comments, you can let me know whether you think that's right or that's wrong. Should Tom Willander be playing in the AHL playoffs for the Abbotsford Canucks, or does that matter? Because like I said, I see this guy as being, potentially an NHL-ready defenseman. There's a chance he could spend the year next year in the AHL. That's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to make it to the NHL, but likely that's his trajectory right now. I mean, the 2 examples I mentioned were Charlie McAvoy, who played a grand total of 4 AHL games. The other guy I mentioned was Mike Matheson, also a first-round pick back in 2012. He did play pretty much a full year in the AHL before getting recalled to the Florida Panthers. And he did sign out of the NCAA and play 5 AHL games before that season ended. So, again, we'll see. A signing can be announced anytime with Tom Willander, but maybe there's a chance that the AHL playoffs just aren't something that him and his family see as being overly valuable. Now, I'd like to see Tom Willander there, but it's hard for me to fault a guy for wanting to wrap up his education, especially a guy who is supposed to be as book smart as Tom Willander. And hey, I'm a guy that's not very book smart, okay? So maybe I'm just jealous that Tom Willander's got the dedication to go pound those books and get it done with the education. Now, one thing that's worth mentioning too is reportedly the big holdup here with Tom Willander is the Schedule A bonuses. Of course, when a guy like him signs a deal, they sign the maximum up to the cap, $950,000. But there are other bonuses and deals too, where we saw with Z Buyem, his bonuses pushed upwards of $1 million. Typically, the Canucks in the past, according to reporting, have stayed around that $500,000 mark. With Jonathan Lecker-Mackey, his Schedule A bonuses were around $475,000. Still a lot of money for a young chap. And that could be what's holding up negotiations here with Tom Willander. And you look at, as per Puckpedia, some of the performance bonus categories for entry-level defensemen. It includes, hitting 10 goals, 25 assists, 40 points, being top 4 in time on ice among defensemen on team, the top 3 in plus minus on team, but a half point per game, being top 2 among all defensemen in block shots, ending the season on the all-rookie team, having an all-star selection as well. So there's a lot of things here with Tom Willander. I look at those, and heading into next season, 10 goals is a long stretch, but 25 assists, 40 points, and that would be interesting to see if that's included in the Schedule A bonuses. Top 4 on ice time among defensemen. I mean, this is a team right now that employs Quinn Hughes. They employ Philip Pronik. They employ Marcus Pettersson. But theoretically, could Tom Willander maybe have more minutes than a guy like Tyler Myers next season? That may be grasping at straws a bit, but if he does come as advertised and have that Brock Faber, Charlie McAvoy-like impact, that's a bonus that he could certainly hit with the Vancouver Canucks. A guy who could be top 2 among all defensemen in block shots, ending the season on the all-rookie team. Like, there are some interesting bonuses there for Tom Willander. But look, the fact of the matter is this guy is going to sign in Vancouver. Of course, a lot of reporting right now is stipulating the negativity of the situation, but let's be patient with this guy. I would prefer to see him in the AHL. I also don't think it's a huge deal if he doesn't go to Abbotsford this season. This guy will be with the Vancouver Canucks next season. If he's not, I would be shocked. Okay? And you can call me stupid in the comments here on Locked On Canucks. I can take it. Okay? I got thick skin. That's what we get a wife and 2 kids for, okay? Unbelievable. Tom Willander coming soon to the Vancouver Canucks, but when that will be, not as quickly as we would have hoped. And again, it's just been that season for the Vancouver Canucks, right? Just when you want something to go right, there ends up being another hiccup. And of course, hiccups with the reporting last night. Frank Saravalli getting it wrong again. My God, man. Take a break, man. The offseason's coming up, okay? Unbelievable. Speaking of unbelievable, a couple unbelievable things I want to talk about on the other side. Let's talk about one unbelievable stat in terms of the Canadian teams here in Canada. Let's talk about some of the debuts for Canuck forwards, or Canuck players, I should say, last night. And I do want to touch on as well another rookie sensation, having me go back in the time machine here, man, on Locked On Canucks. That's all coming up on the other side. You're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. We'll be back on the other side after talking about dem nuts, baby. Oh, I love talking about my nuts, but the nuts I love talking about even more than that are the nuts from wonderful Pistachios, because it is the snack that's both delicious and nutritious, baby. And you can crack into a good source of protein with wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller for longer. And personally, I like the naked nuts in my mouth. Hoo-hoo-hoo! Naked nuts in the mouth, baby. Let's go. And that's why I like the no-shell variety from Wonderful Pistachios. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm at my desk, in the car, or need a quick protein boost. It's always my go-to. And if you like the teas, the in-shell options are also a classic favorite. So whether you like the teas or you like the in-shell options, get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Welcome back to Locked On Canucks. As I fondle my nuts there for the last 90 seconds, we are now back on the program that we call Locked On Canucks. Let's get to this comment first to clear the air before we start talking about someone else here on Locked On Canucks. And this comment from Greener saying, Willander not burning the first year of his ELC. It's better for him to have 3 years of full play rather than 2 plus a few games for a better bridge contract. So, Greener, you're absolutely right there. But it is worth noting that if Willander does sign, he won't be signing to play 1 game with the Vancouver Canucks. He'll be signing his entry-level deal that'll kick in next season, and he can sign a pro contract, basically an AHL-only contract to go play for the Abbotsford Canucks. But yes, absolutely, Tom Willander's entry-level deal will start with the Vancouver Canucks next season. Now, I guess it's worth noting, is there any chance Willander goes back for another season of university? Now, only Tom Willander knows that, but it really doesn't make much sense for the Vancouver Canucks. And I do think that if he chooses to do that, maybe we can start worrying a little bit about Tom Willander and his future in Vancouver. Again, even as a trade chip, you want to have this guy signed and as part of your team. Of course, if he's not signed, the same trade value isn't there for Tom Willander. But I expect it to get done. And again, a holdup over a couple $100,000 here and there on Schedule A bonuses. It's fair to be a firm negotiator for the Canucks, but eventually this has got to get done with Tom Willander, and I believe it will get done. One thing I have a really hard time believing is what transpired here in Canada this season, okay? In good old Canada. And yeah, your Vancouver Canucks, I think it's official now. They will finish as the worst team in Canada. What? How will that how did that happen here in Vancouver? Now, there's a caveat here, right? The Montreal Canadiens actually have 1 less point than the Vancouver Canucks right now. Both teams have played 81 games thus far. But of course, the Montreal Canadiens are likely playoff bound, whereas the Vancouver Canucks are not. So, yeah, in terms of points, Montreal might be the worst. It's actually been a bit of a lucky season in Montreal when you kind of peek under the hood at their advanced stats, what they're creating, especially what they're allowing. Sam Montembeault is, maybe one of the most underrated guys in the NHL this season. But for the Vancouver Canucks to fall from where they were to where they are this season, it is a little hard to believe. And again, last season, a year where everything went right, the Vancouver Canucks finished as the second best team in Canada. Only the Winnipeg Jets were better, and they were better by 1 point. And it took an 8-game winning streak to end the season for them to surpass the Canucks by a single point. And of course, when we got to the playoffs as well, the Canucks, the second last team in Canada left in the dance, of course, falling to the Edmonton Oilers in round 2. And look, there's lots of time here on Locked On Canucks to unpack what the hell happened this season. We already started to get into some of that last week with Patrick Johnson, and we'll be getting into it throughout the offseason. But I think a bit of salt in the wound here for Canucks fans is the fact that somehow we ended up with the worst team in Canada. Really? This is giving me North Division vibes, man. And that was a year where, the Canucks are coming off the bubble season. We're all feeling good. We're like, oh, could this team be the best team in Canada in this North Division season? And lo and behold, they were one of the worst teams in Canada. In fact, I think they finished last in that division that year, if I'm not mistaken. This year, I would argue, has been not as cataclysmic of a drop, but more disappointing overall, considering the fact that they actually had Stanley Cup aspirations this year. But looking at the rest of the teams around them in Canada, let's decipher what was the biggest surprise in Canada this season. And you look at the Winnipeg Jets. I'd say that's a pretty big surprise, in my opinion. A team goes on to win the President's Trophy. I know they had 110 points last season, but I think we all believe there was a bit of a pullback coming, especially based on how porous they were in the playoffs last season. Again, being you call Toronto the center of the universe, you might call Winnipeg the toilet bowl of Canada there. There's not a lot going right there, aside from regular season success. So I'll say them being regular season champs, to me, was a pretty big surprise. Not much surprising about Toronto, pretty much just on past another typical season where they get 100 points. They're making the playoffs for the 9th straight year, and they're going to bow to round 1. This is the way it goes in Toronto. The Edmonton Oilers, I think many were thinking that obviously they were the Cup favorite coming into the season when you look at betting platforms. They have right now 99 points in 81 games. So they've taken a slight step back there. But I say not a big surprise for me because it's the same old Oilers. I mean, their depth didn't do as well as they hoped for this year, but they got 2 of the best players on the planet, and they got a god-awful goaltending duo. And we'll see if that can carry them back to the Stanley Cup final again or not, but I have my doubts. Next up, the Ottawa Senators. I think a surprise in the sense that they hadn't made the playoffs since 2017. Man, oh man. I had no hair on my chest in 2017, man. And Ottawa, it's been a long time for them, but they finally do make the playoffs. I'd say that was coming. Okay, I told the Locked On Sens guys last year that their time was coming this year. Happy to see them finally make the playoffs. Travis Green, should the Canucks have kept him as head coach? I'm just kidding. Travis Green, one love in Ottawa. The Calgary Flames, pretty big surprise that they end up where they do right now. The 5th best team in Canada, 92 points. Still likely to miss the playoffs. We'll get information on that tonight based on how the games play out. Then you have the Montreal Canadiens. They're a pretty massive surprise making the playoffs too. So if I'm talking about the 3 biggest surprises in Canada this season, it is the Jets, it is the Canucks, and it is the Canadiens. And to me, it is the Vancouver Canucks as the biggest surprise in Canada, and not for the right reasons. Of course, we've been covering the drama all season here on Locked On Canucks. Let's look to some more solutions as we get into the offseason as well. Speaking of solutions, we had a game last night. The Canucks beat the San Jose Sharks 2-1 in a game that made you want to gouge your eyes out for about 48 minutes of it. Heated up a little bit at the end. Goals from Linus Karlsson, who Linus Karlsson now has 5 points in his last 9 games. He's starting to look like a legitimate 4th-line player, let's call it, for the Canucks next season. I think I think Swedes often get the mentality that they're too soft, but this guy, he plays bigger than he is. He said it to media. He's trying to carve out an identity on this team, and his identity is going to the net. So again, I think Linus Karlsson, there's a chance that he's a 4th-line option for the Canucks next season. And based on the way he's performed recently, I'm kind of okay with that. Again, this isn't a guy who hadn't earned the opportunity. He's been in Abbotsford for a couple of years now. 21 goals in 30 games this season. He has been a really strong player for that team. Of course, let's get to this comment from Callum Sandu, because I know Callum is the biggest fan of this guy on the program. Callum Sandu loved seeing Tolopilo win his first NHL start last night. I know Callum was fapping to the victory, man. Callum, good for you, buddy. Nothing like a nice happy fap to your boy winning his first NHL game. And look, Nikita Tolopilo didn't have to face a lot last night, but I was happy to come in to see him come in there and give the Canucks a good start, because it has been an up and down season in the AHL for him. I talked about that yesterday, but guy's gone from kind of having a 1 goal against shutout performance to allowing 7-8 goals in the game. Like, he has been all over the place this season. But he's a big dude in there, and he held well last night, especially to have your only goal that passed you be just an absolute beauty. Perfect shot from Macklin Celebrini. Shout out to the big Belarusian, 6'6". They say about guys who are 6'6". Tall guys. We also got the debut from Kirill Kudratsev as well, becoming the first 7th round pick from the 2022 draft to play an NHL game last night. And look, I think at the time we were calling that pick a potential diamond in the rough. I mean, his production, but a half point a game at the time in the OHL, lined up with the guy who could have some NHL potential. And again, he was boring. He was safe last night, and that's exactly what you want from a guy like Kirill Kudratsev. And maybe after another year in Abbotsford, he could be a guy that's maybe that 6th, 7th defenseman for the Canucks moving forward, especially as Beatty potentially moves up the lineup for your Vancouver Canucks. Let's wrap up the show on the other side. I do want to go on a bit of a ballad about one rookie performance last night and how it had me reminiscing about old times, baby. That's coming up. Maybe get some of your comments too. You're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. We'll be back after showing it our friends over at Upwork. Man, oh man, if you're an everyday or an occasional listener, I've been without my co-host on the show. And if I'm looking for maybe a freelancer to come in and just see how things look here on Locked On Canucks, I'm going to be using Upwork, because with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, podcasting. You hear that, Kyle? And more. Experts ready to help take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. And posting a job, it's easy peasy, baby. I could do it from the toilet. Posting a job is free and simple. Within a day, multiple quality candidates are there for you to choose from. So make sure you visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent. And grow your business today. All right. We're back here on Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. Again, the Canucks season mercifully almost coming to an end, but the Tom Willander signing not in sight, despite the fact that other rookies are starting to make their debut in the NHL. And that had me reminiscing last night after watching another rookie light it up for another Canadian team. When Ivan Demidov stepped on the ice for the Montreal Canadiens last night, it had me going back in the time machine to October of 2018. And Canucks fans, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You might have had the same feeling last night when you watched this kid play. Ivan Demidov, he steps onto the ice in the first period alone, has a beautiful assist to set up Alex Newhook for the game's opening goal, doing Pettersson-like things in terms of spreading the legs. What, spreading the legs? Spreading the legs, stick handling with his head up, and finding the guy open in the slot. He then goes on to score another beautiful goal, capping off I'm getting emotional right now, man. Capping off that first period with a goal and an assist. Montreal Canadiens still somehow lost the Chicago Blackhawks, but that's another story. The point is, Ivan Demidov's NHL debut reminded me a lot of Elias Pettersson's NHL debut for the Vancouver Canucks, where again, he had and a goal and an assist in his first game, a highlight reel goal on top of that, and right away looked like he was going to be an impact player in the NHL. Now, of course, Pettersson kept it up, 10 goals in his first 10 games. If Demidov can do the same thing just based on when he's entering the league, like Montreal Canadiens might just do more than make the playoffs. They could even win a round if he has that kind of electricity to his game, which I think he does. But again, another reason why last night was so bittersweet is because we all know Mr. 11.6 has come a long ways down from the peak where he was at. And he was on a rapid ascension when he came into the NHL. He's been one of the best guys in the NHL since entering. And I talked about it, was it last week now? Pettersson, from the time talking, took over to the end of January last year, 7th overall in the NHL in points. A point per game guy through his first 400 games. And now he's going to end this season with 45 points. It is a catastrophic fall. But look, the guy out who was dangling like Ivan Demidov is still in there somewhere. It's up to the Canucks to unlock that guy or trade that guy, but you're more likely to have success unlocking him. And I think I know where a lot of you stand in Canucks Nation, but let me know in the comments, did you have that same feeling last night if you watched any of Ivan Demidov play? Because when I saw him, I had a mad Elias Pettersson rookie vibes come out to me there. All right, let's get to some of your comments before I wrap up here on Locked On Canucks. And I got some more reminiscing to do on the other side, baby. Look at the comments here. Gigatronic saying, Beggs' hair is looking good. Man, oh man, if you want, there's a lot of reasons why Kyle is not on Locked On Canucks right now. And I'll show out one comment from him. But another big one might be, Kyle's losing his hair a bit quicker than mine. And look, I'm not immune to it. My daughter, she likes to wash my hair when she's in the tub. I love it. Sit back, relax. And but my hair falls out. My hair is definitely falling out. And it's falling out more this year because of the Vancouver Canucks. But look, I'm lucky I got the kids as my distraction. Kyle Bowen, my brother, my co-host, does not have that distraction. Hence, he stresses more about this team and his hair falls out faster. Speaking for an update, someone's commenting on Locked On Canucks, and it's not me. James Moore was asking, sorry, I've been away, but where did Kyle go? What's going on? And Kyle, I think this is Kyle saying his health is good, but apparently it's a contract dispute / his heart is broken. Yeah, look, Kyle, I gave him the JT Miller. I kicked him off the show for a bit, take care of his mental health. But man, oh man, this guy's looking for more money. Kyle, we make $7.80 a month there on Locked On Canucks, and you're looking for more money? I got a family to feed, buddy. What about you? You just got a dog to feed? I got a family to feed, okay? Will Kyle Bowen return to Locked On Canucks? We should have some more clarity on that later this week. James Moore in the comments doing the former Canucks last year who are in and out of the playoffs. Out. JT Miller, Carson Soucy, Zadorov, Lindholm, Mikheyev, Cole, Lafferty, and in is Justice Smith and Podkolzin. Now, I do want to do a bit more of a deep dive on that, of course. Just the Canucks from last year, but that is an interesting look at, players who you get a mix of guys who went to find other opportunities in there. Guys who the Canucks moved off of for whatever reason, but really interesting to see, Miller and Soucy in particular in New York. That trade did not help the Rangers make the playoffs, and man, oh man, they mortgaged a good chunk of their future in Mancini and in that first round pick, and potentially giving up an unprotected 2026 first round pick next year. That's a tough place for that Rangers team to be. Boston, complete disaster. Ian Cole, Utah, they were close, but a little bit too young to get it done. Lafferty was nothing like he was in the first half of last season. So again, it looks like, based on what James Moore's saying, the only Canucks that are in the playoffs from last year's team are DeSmith at the backup in Dallas and Podkolzin riding the coattails of Draisaitl and McDavid in Edmonton. Let's wrap up here on Locked On Canucks. Again, appreciate you for tuning into the show. Later this week, we will touch on more of the offseason roadmap for your Vancouver Canucks. Specifically, is there a trade candidate on this team, a pretty prominent guy who no one's talking about? Let's talk about that guy later this week. We'll get to locker room cleanups. We'll get to the offseason roadmap for the Canucks as well. Who's in and who's out moving forward. But for now, I got to get out of here. Again, I appreciate the hell out of you for tuning into Locked On Canucks, for making us part of your day, perhaps even the first listen of your day. Man, oh man, I love each and every one of you. If you like what I'm doing, like what we're doing, subscribe and like on YouTube, on the podcast side, go follow us and leave a 5-star review. I got to get out of here, though. I'm Trevor Beggs, and you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.